Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are staring down a situation that brings a cold sweat to just about anyone who has ever held a passport and, stood in a very specific beige-colored line. We're talking about the visa interview.
Oh, yeah?
Not just any visa interview. We are talking about the main event, the heavyweight championship of bureaucratic anxiety.
It really is a universal experience of dread, isn't it? I mean, it completely transcends culture. It transcends language.
Yeah.
Just that feeling of standing in a silent room, holding a plastic folder, waiting for your number to be called.
It's visceral. I feel it just talking about it. But today, we aren't just talking about the general nervousness of, say, forgetting your paperwork or having a bad hair day for your photo. We are diving into a very specific high-stakes environment.
Right.
The U.S. B-1, B-2 visitor visa process as it stands right now in the year 2026.
Yes, and that year is crucial.
Exactly. And looking at our sources today, which includes some really detailed legal breakdowns, firsthand accounts, and some fascinating internal strategy documents, it seems like the game has completely changed. It feels less like a bureaucratic formality and more like, well, the source material uses a very strong phrase. It calls it the interrogation of 2026.
That is a very, very accurate way to frame it. I mean, if you are operating on old advice, like advice from 2015 or even 2020, you're essentially walking into a trap.
Really a trap.
Oh, absolutely. The landscape of 2026 has completely shifted the baseline. It's no longer just a simple question of, do you have a return ticket? It's become a psychological evaluation of your life's entire architecture.
Okay, wow. A psychological evaluation. That shift is exactly what we need to unpack first. Because the source material paints this picture where the person sitting behind that bulletproof glass, let's just call him the consular officer, they aren't just checking boxes anymore.
No, not at all.
They aren't just making sure you haven't committed a crime. They are looking for something very specific, and they are operating under a legal framework that is honestly mind-blowing to the average person. Like, here is the kicker that really surprised me when I was reading through this. The presumption of guilt.
Guilty until proven innocent.
Yes, exactly. Can we just pause and really unpack that for a second?
Yeah.
Because in a criminal court, in almost any functioning democracy, innocent until proven guilty is the absolute bedrock of justice.
Right.
But in a visa interview, that entire concept is apparently flipped on its head.
It is. It is the foundational legal reality of the U.S. visa system. Specifically, we're talking about Section 214B of the Immigration and Nationality Act.
214B.
Right. Now, this law has been around for a long time. It's not brand new. But in 2026, the interpretation of that law has become incredibly rigorous. Essentially, the moment you walk up to that window, before you even open your mouth, before you even slide your passport into glass, the officer is legally required to believe that you are an intending immigrant.
So let me make sure I'm getting this straight. I walk up, I smile, I say good morning, and in their head, they are already thinking, this person is actively trying to move to America forever.
Correct. They assume you are going to land at JFK or LAX, rip up your return ticket, and just disappear into the general population.
Yeah.
That is the baseline. That is the default setting on their computer, so to speak.
That is.
And your only job, your singular job in that 3-minute interview, and let's be honest, it is often just 3 minutes, is to prove that assumption wrong.
3 minutes to prove a negative.
Exactly. You have to prove a negative. You have to prove that you don't intend to stay.
That is a wildly heavy burden of proof for a 3-minute conversation with a stranger. I mean, how do you logically prove you won't do something in the future? It's philosophical almost.
It is.
And this is where our central metaphor for today's deep dive comes in. I absolutely love this imagery from the sources. They call it gravity and anchors.
It is a beautiful metaphor. It's essentially physics applied to bureaucracy. And it gets slightly terrifying when you realize you are the object being weighed on the scale.
It really does, because usually when we think about travel, we think about lightness, we think about freedom, about movement, about cutting ties and just exploring the world.
Freeze a bird, right?
Right, the backpacker mentality.
Exactly. But this framework suggests that to actually get the visa to go do that, you have to prove the exact opposite. You have to prove you are stuck. You have to prove you are heavy.
Precisely. The officer is looking for gravity. They want to see the gravitational pull of your home country.
Okay.
They need to see that the pull of your life in Jeddah or London or Tokyo or wherever you live is physically stronger than the pull of the United States. If you are too light, too free, you float away. And in their mind, you float right into illegal residency in the U.S. It's so counterintuitive. We spend our whole lives trying to be free, trying to be mobile, accumulating savings so we can do whatever we want. But you're saying that in this specific room, looking at this specific officer, having total freedom is actually a massive liability.
It is biggest liability you can have.
Yeah.
And that's really what we're going to explore today. We have 3 fascinating case studies pulled right from our source material that illustrate this dynamic perfectly. They represent 3 very different types of problems in this gravity model.
Okay, let's introduce them for everyone listening. Who are we looking at today?
First up, we have Ashkan. She's a business owner in Jeddah. This is what we call the economic gravity case.
Huh.
On paper, she looks great, but she faces a very specific emotional trap.
The emotional trap. Okay.
Then we have Hend. Hend is a 24-year-old freelance graphic designer. She represents the digital nomad dilemma, which the sources classify as the high-risk case.
High risk. Got it.
And finally, we have Stephen. Stephen is a long-term expat. He's a British citizen who's been living in Saudi Arabia for years, and he has a very complicated travel history. He represents the security supplement nightmare.
These 3 profiles really do cover the spectrum of modern travel, don't they? Ashkin is the established, wealthy professional, Hend is the modern gig economy worker, and Stephen is the quintessential global citizen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yet, despite being successful in their own ways, all of them face massive hurdles.
Because they all face the exact same question from the officer. What holds you back? And as we're going to see, simply saying, I have a return flight or I have a solid bank account is nowhere near enough in 2026.
Okay, so before we dive into Ashkin's specific story, we need to understand the antagonist of this narrative. We need to really get into the mindset of the person making this decision. Our sources introduce us to this composite character. Let's call him Officer Miller.
Officer Miller, the ultimate gatekeeper.
Right. Officer Miller. He's a veteran. He's seen it all. He's sat behind that glass window for years. He's heard every single story, every excuse, every elaborate lie. And the sources say he operates almost entirely on this concept of the pull factor.
The pull factor, yes.
Yeah.
This is the enemy of the visa applicant. It is the direct counterforce to your gravity.
So what exactly constitutes a pull factor in Miller's eyes?
It is anything, literally anything in the United States that tempts you. Anything that shines brighter than what you have back at home.
Like what? Money.
Sure, economic opportunity is a huge one. Saying to yourself, I can make 5 times my current salary driving a cab in New York.
Right.
Or it could be a lifestyle factor. I want to live in a place with different freedoms or a different climate. But most dangerously, and this is the one that surprises the most people, it could be family.
Family. Wait, hang on. I thought visiting family was the whole point of a B1, B2 visitor visa. There is literally a checkbox on the form for visiting relatives. How can the actual reason for the visit be the reason for the rejection?
This is the grand paradox of this system. Yes, it is a legally valid reason to visit, but it is also a massive reason to stay. This is what the sources call the family trap.
The family trap. Okay, explain that.
Think about it from Officer Miller's perspective. If you have close family in the U.S., you automatically have a built-in support network.
You have a place to stay.
Exactly. You have free couch to sleep on.
Yeah.
You have someone who can buy your groceries while you look for under-the-table work. You have an emotional reason to never leave.
So having a loving sister who lives in Virginia isn't a bonus for your application. It's an active risk factor.
In the cold, unfeeling calculus of Officer Miller, yes, it absolutely is. Let's actually look at Ashkin's case right now to see exactly how this plays out in real time.
Let's do it. Segment 1, economic gravity. So let's unpack Ashkin. She's 45 years old. She owns a very successful boutique in Jeddah. She wants to go to Virginia to visit her sister, Nadia. She hasn't seen Nadia in a really long time. Now, if you just put yourself in Ashkin's shoes for a second, she walks up to the window. She's excited about the trip. She misses her sister. Her natural human instinct is to be emotional about it, right? She wants to convey that love to the officer.
Of course. She wants to say, Officer, I miss Nadia so much. We are so close. I want to spend every single second with her. Honestly, 2 weeks isn't even enough. I wish I could stay for months.
Honestly, that sounds like a great answer to me. It sounds incredibly honest. It sounds loving.
To a normal human being, yes, it sounds lovely. To Officer Miller, alarm bells, red strobe lights going off in his head.
Why? I mean, it's just the truth.
Because that specific statement confirms a massive pull factor. When she says that, the officer hears. This applicant has a deep emotional bond in the U.S. She actively prefers being there with her sister to being back home.
Oh, wow.
She just openly admitted she wants to stay for months if she could. So if I give her this 10-year visa, she might just extend her current stay. Or worse, she might get to Virginia, decide that she simply can't bear to leave Nadia again, and you'll just overstay illegally.
That is wild. So by expressing genuine love for her sibling, she's accidentally admitting to a flight risk. She's confirming that the magnetic pull of the U.S. is stronger than the pull of Saudi Arabia.
Exactly. The officer's sitting there thinking, if the pull of the sister is that remarkably strong, what on earth is the pull pulling her back to Jeddah?
Right. What's the counterweight?
Is whatever she has back home stronger than her love for Nadia?
Mm.
If the answer to that isn't immediately and overwhelmingly obvious, she's not getting the visa. Because the assumption is she's not coming back.
That is heartbreakingly pragmatic. It really just strips all the humanity out of the interaction.
It is cold calculus. There's no room for sentimentality. And this is exactly why the strategy for the interview has to shift. The source material is very clear on this point. You have to pivot the conversation immediately.
Pivot how? Like, if you can't say, I love my sister, what are you supposed to say?
You have to fundamentally stop talking about why you want to go to America and start talking entirely about why you must return home.
That is a complete flip of the script. Usually, whenever you apply for something like a job or getting into a college or a club, you spend the whole time talking about your desire. I really want this. I'm passionate about this.
Right.
You're saying for a visa, you should act like you don't even care if you go, like you're being forced to return.
Well, you don't have to act like you're miserable about the trip. You can smile and politely say,
Yeah.
I'm visiting my sister for her birthday. But immediately, and I mean in the very next breath, you need to frame that vacation as a temporary, minor bracket in a life that is firmly, permanently rooted elsewhere.
You have to downplay the desire.
Downplay the desire. Highlight the absolute necessity of your return. You need to show that your life in your home country is so incredibly demanding, so structured, and so economically vital that you physically cannot afford to be gone for more than those 2 weeks.
You have to prove you were essential.
Correct. You are not a tourist. You are a hostage.
A hostage.
A hostage to your own success and your own responsibilities.
A hostage to your own success. That is such a powerful, vivid image. Let's really break down what that looks like for Ashkin in this concept of economic gravity.
Okay, let's look at Ashkin's assets. On paper, she's wealthy, she has money, she's a business owner. That sounds great, right? But in 2026, Officer Miller doesn't care about a bank statement.
Wait, why not? I would think a big fat bank balance is the ultimate proof. It proves I can afford the plane ticket. It proves I can buy my own food. It proves I'm not destitute and looking for welfare.
Sure, it proves you have cash today. But where did that cash come from? This is where the extreme cynicism of the process comes in. Did you borrow $50,000 from an uncle yesterday just to fluff the statement for the interview?
Oh, people do that.
Constantly. It's a very common trick. It's called Sun's parking. You park the money, print the statement, do the interview, and wire the money back to the uncle the next day.
Okay, that makes sense for fraud. But let's assume it's legitimately her money. She earned it.
Even if it is 100% her money. Can she wire it to a U.S. bank account tomorrow? Yes. Can she access it from an ATM in Virginia? Yes.
Right.
Money is liquid. It moves. It travels with you. It does not hold you down. In fact, if you look at it from Miller's perspective, having a massive amount of cash might actually make it easier for you to restart your life in the U.S. It comfortably funds your illegal transition.
So money is portable, just like a person is portable. It's not an anchor.
Exactly. It's a resource, not a tether. We classify assets into two categories, passive and active. Passive assets like cash in the bank, or a portfolio of stocks, or gold jewelry, or even a physical deed to a house. Those are weak evidence of ties.
Even a house is weak evidence. That seems really surprising. You literally can't put a house in your suitcase. It is the definition of stationary real estate.
You can't pack it, no.
Yeah.
But you can sell a house remotely. You can rent it out through a property management agency while you live in Virginia. You can just leave it empty. Owning a building doesn't require you to physically stand inside it every day. It doesn't require your daily presence. More importantly, it doesn't force you to return on a specific date. The house will still be there whether you come back on the 12th or next year.
So what actually counts as strong evidence then? If my own house and my own bank account aren't enough to impress Officer Miller?
You need to rely on what the sources call the collapse theory.
The collapse theory. This sounds very dramatic, like a blockbuster disaster movie.
It effectively is a disaster movie, but for your professional life back home. The strongest piece of evidence you can possibly present is a system or an entity that will fall apart, literally collapse into ruin if you do not return to manage it.
Okay, let's apply that. Let's look at Ashkin's winning evidence from the source material. What did she bring? Because she didn't just slide over a bank statement.
No, she was smart. She brought her commercial registration, her CR, for the boutique, and she brought the physical lease agreement for the shop, which happens to be located on Talia Street.
Talia Street. Now, why is that specific detail important?
For anyone who knows Jeddah, Talia Street is prime high-end real estate. It implies incredibly high rent, high visibility, and high financial stakes. It proves this isn't just some hobby business she runs out of her garage.
Right.
But the CR document and the lease agreement alone still aren't the smoking gun. It's the human element attached to that business that seals the deal for her.
The employees?
Yes, the human anchor. Ashcan has 6 employees. The source material specifically highlights 2 names, Leo and Shady.
Leo and Shady. Now, why do their specific names matter to a U.S. visa officer sitting in an embassy booth thousands of miles away?
Because Leo and Shady represent a direct, critical chain of dependency. Those 2 men depend entirely on Ashcan for their monthly salaries. They depend on her to physically open the shop, to sign the vendor checks, to manage the daily inventory, to negotiate with the suppliers.
I see where this is going. So let's play out the hypothetical scenario the officer is running in his head. Ashton goes to Virginia. She stays with Nadia. 2 weeks pass, and she decides, you know what? I love America. The weather is great. I love my sister. I'm staying. What happens back in Jeddah?
Complete disaster. Leo and Shady don't get paid at the end of the month.
Right.
They can't feed their families, so they stop coming to work. The luxury shop on Talia Street goes dark. High-end customers start complaining. The landlord, realizing the massive rent check hasn't cleared, gets furious and starts eviction proceedings. Suppliers start calling and demanding payment for inventory. The entire multi-million rial structure she spent years building begins to crumble into dust.
And that expectation of total collapse, that is the gravity.
That is the gravity. It's not just the money, it's the guilt. It's the profound legal and financial responsibility. It's the active management duties. She has to get on that plane back to Saudi Arabia because Leo and Shady are waiting for her. That narrative is infinitely more powerful than simply saying, I own a house. A house doesn't call your cell phone asking where his paycheck is. Leo does.
That makes total sense when you frame it like that. It completely transforms the business from an asset, which is just something you own, into a responsibility, which is something that essentially owns you.
Precisely. Active management is the gravity. Passive ownership is just wealth. And wealth, as we've established, can travel. Responsibilities stay put. The officer fundamentally needs to see that if you do not return on the date you promised, real people get hurt. Ideally, your wallet gets deeply hurt too, but the operational collapse is the key trigger.
So Ashcan actually has a fighting chance here because she has successfully built this iron cage of responsibility around herself. She is heavy with obligation.
Very heavy.
But now let's pivot to someone who has done the exact opposite of that. Let's talk about our second case study. Let's talk about Hend.
Ah, yes. Hend, the digital nomad. This is a profile that genuinely gives visa officers migraines in 2026.
I bet. I mean, this profile is so incredibly common now. The gig economy is huge. Remote work is everywhere. So Hend is 24 years old. She's a freelance graphic designer. And her plan is to go to Disney World in Orlando with her friend Bill.
On the surface, this sounds completely innocent. A young professional person wants to see Mickey Mouse, has a paying job, has money saved up. What's the problem? Why is Officer Miller immediately squinting at her through the glass?
The problem is the laptop, isn't it?
The portable job problem,
Oh.
yes. In the eyes of Officer Miller, Hend is the ultimate high-risk profile.
Because she can work from anywhere with a Wi-Fi connection.
Exactly. Think about the mechanics of her life. If Hend says, I'm a graphic designer, I work for myself on my computer, Officer Miller hears, I can design corporate logos sitting in my bedroom in Jeddah, or I can design those exact same logos sitting in a rented basement in Orlando, or a Starbucks in New York.
Right. She is entirely location independent, which in the real world is usually a badge of honor. It's the dream.
In the real world, it's fantastic. In the visa adjudication world, location independence is a fatal flaw. It means there is zero economic gravity.
Zero.
Her work does not pull her back to Jeddah. Her work literally travels with her in her backpack.
So Officer Miller looks at her and thinks, she has absolutely no structural reason to leave the U.S. once she gets here. She can just keep earning money illegally or even legally for foreign clients while living full-time in the U.S.
Correct. She can just float. She has no tethers. She represents the immigration officer's absolute worst nightmare. A young person with no fixed address, no corporate boss checking in on her, and highly portable skills.
Man, that's tough. So how does Hen try to defend herself in the interview? In the source material, she tries to use what she calls social anchors. She says to the officer, I have to come back because of my parents and my cat.
The classic defense. I love my mom. I love Fluffy. And sadly, it is almost always a completely failed defense.
But why? I mean, people really love their cats and their parents. It's a genuine, real bond that brings people home all the time.
It is a real emotional bond, absolutely. I'm not discounting human emotion. But the officer has to ask, is it legally binding? Is it financially ruinous if broken? Is it time sensitive?
Well, no, not really. You can love your mom from a distance.
Exactly. You can FaceTime your parents every Sunday from Florida. You can wire the money. You can get a neighbor in Jeddah to feed the cat or rehome the cat. Or in the absolute worst case scenario that the officer is paid to imagine, you can just bring the parents and the cat over later once you've settled and figured out how to stay.
Or you just abandon them entirely.
That's the core fear, the concept of ghosting.
Ghosting your own life.
Yes. The officer fears that the applicant is young enough, mobile enough, and detached enough to just ghost their home country, to disappear without any catastrophic fallout.
That is a remarkably bleak view of human nature.
It's the reality of the job. Officer Miller has personally seen thousands of people swear on their lives, I love my cat, I'm coming back, and then they never come back. He needs something harder. He needs an anchor that compels a return on a specific, non-negotiable date.
So what should Hen have done? If you are a freelancer in 2026, are you just doomed? Can you never get a visa to visit Disney World? Because that seems incredibly unfair to an entire generation of workers.
You aren't doomed, but you have to be much more strategic. You have to actively construct what the sources call artificial anchors.
Artificial anchors. That sounds like a major construction project. Tell me how that works.
If your daily job doesn't provide natural organic gravity like Ashkin's shop does, you have to build that gravity yourself before you apply. You need to create specific, time-bound commitments that legally or socially force you to be in a specific physical location at a specific time.
Okay, the source gives some great examples of this. It mentions a wedding invitation.
Yes. Let's say her brother, Zahir, is getting married next month in Saudi Arabia.
Why is that significantly better than just saying, I love my parents?
Because a wedding is a specific, unmovable event on a specific date. If she says, I must be back in Jeddah by March 15th because I am the maid of honor at Zahir's wedding, that creates a hard deadline. A wedding is a profound social ritual. It carries immense social pressure. If you voluntarily miss your own brother's wedding just so you can stay longer at Disney World, you become a social pariah in your family. The officer understands that level of cultural and social pressure.
It puts a ticking clock on the trip. The officer knows she has to be on a plane by the 14th.
Exactly. Or, even better than a social event, a professional commitment. The source mentions securing a contract to teach a seminar at a university in 6 weeks.
So she walks in and says, I have to teach an in-person graphic design seminar at King Abdulaziz University on April 20th.
Boom. Now you have a rock-solid reason to leave the U.S. You have a professional reputation to uphold, you have a signed contract, you have 20 students physically waiting for you in a classroom. You aren't just a floating freelancer anymore. You are a visiting lecturer with a fixed schedule.
It's the Leo and Shady factor, and just in a different font. People are waiting for you.
It always comes back to that. Visas for freelancers aren't about what you do. They honestly don't care that you design logos. They care when you have to be back to do it.
That is a crucial distinction for people to understand. It's not the what, it's the when.
If you can do your job anytime, it means you can do it anywhere. If you have to do it next Tuesday in person, you have an anchor.
So for all the digital nomads listening to this deep dive right now, do not walk into that interview bragging about your freedom. Do not talk about how you can work from the beach in Bali or a cafe in Paris. Brag about your deadlines.
Beautifully put. Brag about your constraints. Brag about your mandatory meetings. Bring the physical calendar. Show them the shackles of your schedule.
Look at how busy and incredibly stressed I am. Please let me go on vacation.
Ironically, yes.
Yeah.
A stressed, overworked applicant looks significantly safer than a relaxed, carefree one.
That is wild. Okay, so we've covered the business owner and we've covered the freelancer. Now we enter the realm of the truly complex. Let's talk about Stephen.
Segment 3, the security supplement.
This one is intense. So Stephen is a British expat. He's been living and working in Saudi Arabia for 15 years. So he already has that third country national complexity going on. He's applying outside his home country.
Right.
But his real issue isn't his job. His real issue is his passport stamps, his travel history.
Stephen has been busy. He is a global traveler. And unfortunately for him, he's been to countries that are currently on the 2026 high observation list.
Now, the source material doesn't name the specific countries, but we can easily imagine the type. Places that raise flags due to political instability or recent conflict or diplomatic tensions with the U.S. And because he visited these places, Stephen gets hit with the absolute dreaded form, the DS 5535.
The supplemental questions for visa applicants. Look, if the standard 3-minute interview is a quick medical checkup, the DS 5535 is a full forensic autopsy of your entire past. This is where the interrogation goes from active questioning to archaeological digging.
Archaeological, that implies they are digging up ancient history.
They want to dig up everything. They want 15 continuous years of travel history.
Yeah.
Not just a list of where you went, but exactly when you went, for how many days, who you met with, and who funded the trip. And it doesn't stop there. They want every single phone number, every email address, and every social media handle you've used in the last decade and a half.
Every phone number. I can't even remember my own phone number from 3 years ago. I change SIM cards like I change socks when I travel internationally.
Well, you better find them.
Yeah.
Because this puts you into what the system calls administrative processing limbo. If you land in this pile, you are completely stuck until you can dig your way out with raw data. If you miss a phone number, or if you forget a weekend trip to a neighboring country from 8 years ago, the officer doesn't view that as a memory lapse. They view it as deliberate concealment.
Wow. Now, Stephen's immediate instinct here, and I think a lot of us would feel this exact same way, especially if we come from Western democracies with strong privacy laws, is to get incredibly defensive. He's a British citizen. He's been a good, law-abiding expat. His natural reaction is to ask, why do you need this? This is a massive invasion of my privacy. What possible business is it of the U.S. government, who I emailed back in 2012?
And that reaction right there is what we call the privacy paradox of 2026.
Privacy paradox. What does that mean in this context?
It means that privacy is a luxury the visa office simply does not recognize. The very moment Stephen gets defensive, the moment he pushes back and cites his rights, Officer Miller marks him as a giant red flag.
Because defensiveness looks exactly like hiding something.
Exactly. In the security-first mindset, resistance implies guilt. The officer thinks if you have absolutely nothing to hide, Stephen, why wouldn't you just gladly tell us every hotel you stayed at in 2019? Why are you hesitating to give us your old Twitter handle?
It feels so invasive, though. It feels fundamentally wrong to have to surrender that much personal data just to visit a country.
It is invasive. It feels terrible. But here is the hard, unavoidable truth that Stephen has to swallow. Entering the U.S. on a visa is a privilege, not a fundamental human right.
Right.
The U.S. government has absolutely no legal obligation to let him in. So the strategy for Stephen cannot be to stand on his principles of privacy. The strategy has to be the exact opposite. It has to be data dumping.
Data dumping.
Yeah.
Just overwhelm them with absolute transparency.
Yes. Complete radical transparency. You walk in and say, here is the massive Excel sheet. Here are the 15 years of dates. Here are the physical old SIM cards. Here are the printed flight manifests and hotel receipts. You basically have to bore them to death with your transparency. You have to show them that your life is a completely open book, even if the chapters of that book are incredibly boring.
The source mentions something else very specific about Stephen's past trips. It talks about his travel companions. It brings up this terrifying concept of guilt by association.
Yes, the supplemental form often asks for specific names. The source mentions they might ask, who were you with?
Right. It specifically names Marcos and Amir. It says Stephen needs to detail what Marcos or Amir were doing with him on those specific trips.
This is where the security check gets extremely tricky and out of your control. Let's say Marcos is just an old college buddy. Maybe they just went hiking in the mountains for a week. But what if Marcos has a security flag on his own file?
Oh, wow.
What if Marcos once attended a political protest or donated $50 to a charity that later got flagged by intelligence agencies? Now, Stephen suddenly has a flag on his file simply because he shared a taxi with Marcos 5 years ago.
So Stephen doesn't just have to explain himself. He needs to explain the context of his friendships.
He needs to contextualize every association. He can't just casually say, oh, we just hung out. He needs to say, we were both attending a telecommunications conference. Here is the official agenda. Here is a photo of us eating pasta at the public gala dinner. Here is the receipt showing we had separate hotel rooms. He needs to proactively prove that the association was benign, public, and professional. If he gets vague and says, oh, to some guys I know, it looks highly suspicious.
It really emphasizes that In the world of 2026, your digital footprint and your social network are essentially part of your passport. You aren't just you anymore. You are the sum total of everyone you know.
You are. You are not just an individual applicant. You are a node in a massive global network. And the officer's software is analyzing the health of that entire network. If you are connected to bad nodes, you become a bad node by proxy.
So the ultimate takeaway for the Stevens of the world, people with complex histories: compliance is the only way through the firewall.
Compliance and extreme, overwhelming data do not fight the system, feed the system. If the bureaucratic machine is hungry for data, you give it an all-you-can-eat buffet.
Feed the system. That's a chilling but very useful piece of practical advice. It's like dealing with a bear in the woods. Don't poke it, just give it the picnic basket and back away slowly.
Exactly. Don't argue with the bear about your right to walk in the woods.
Okay, so we've looked at Ashkin's economic gravity, Hen's need for artificial anchors, and Stevens' security data dump. We have these three very different profiles facing very different hurdles. But there is a unifying theory underlying all of this. The source material calls it the theory of gravity.
Yes, gravity is the universal law governing this entire process.
And attorney Sarah, who is one of the legal experts heavily referenced in our source material, she has this concept called the 10 reasons rule. I think this is a fantastic tool for our listeners who are trying to synthesize all this complex information.
It's the ultimate preparation checklist. It completely cuts through the noise and anxiety. The rule is very simple in theory. Don't just walk in there and show you have a reason to go to the U.S.
Because everyone has a reason to go.
Exactly. Everyone has a wedding or a conference or Disney World. Instead, you need to show you have 10 reasons why you absolutely cannot stay.
Why you cannot stay. I love that flippant perspective. It's not about the destination. It's entirely about the origin.
It's about stacking the deck in your favor. If you only provide one reason, like, say, a job, the officer might think it's a fluke. People quit their jobs all the time. But if you provide 10 compounding reasons, that's not a fluke. That's a life. That's a dense, inescapable web of obligations.
And there is a clear hierarchy to these reasons, right? All reasons are not created equal in Miller's eyes. We've touched on this throughout the deep dive, but let's formalize it for the listeners.
Good idea. Let's recap the hierarchy of evidence we've discussed today from strongest to weakest.
Okay. Number one, at the very top of the pyramid, the strongest possible anchor.
Active business or employment. This is the Ashkin tier. Real people depend on you for their livelihood. This relies on the collapse theory. If you leave, physical things break and people suffer financially. This is the gold standard of gravity. If you have this, you are in a very strong position.
Number two,
professional obligations. This is the hand fix. Signed contracts, university seminars, specific dates where your professional reputation and future earnings are entirely on the line. I must be back on this day for this conference.
Number three,
social rituals. The brother's wedding, the sister's graduation, specific time-bound family events. Crucially, this is not just saying, I miss my mom. It's saying, my mom is having major knee surgery on Tuesday the 12th, and I am her sole primary caretaker. Or, I am the legal witness at a wedding, and the ceremony cannot proceed without me.
and finally, at the bottom, the weakest link in the chain,
Assets.
the money.
The money, the house deed, the car title. These are the least valuable forms of gravity because they are entirely passive. They don't require your physical heartbeat to exist.
Yeah.
They're nice to have. They definitely show you aren't living in poverty, but they fundamentally do not prove you will return.
It's so interesting that the thing most people naturally lead with, I have money, look at my giant bank statement, is actually the weakest argument in the entire hierarchy.
It's a very common, very fatal misconception. Wealth does not equal ties. Responsibility equals ties. Officer Miller would honestly rather see a financially struggling mother who absolutely has to get back to her 3 young kids than a solitary millionaire with no job and no family.
That is a profound shift in how we think about immigration. So if you are listening to this and preparing for this interview, you are essentially building a legal case file. You aren't just packing your bags for a fun trip. You are packing hard evidence of your entire existence.
You are. And this requires a massive mindset shift that the source material really emphasizes. You have to completely stop thinking of yourself as a tourist.
Right, like don't walk in saying, I'm just a tourist, I want to see the sights, eat some hot dogs.
Oh, that's incredibly weak. You need to view yourself and present yourself as a vital community member. You are a boss. You are a teacher. You are a vital brother with a wedding to attend. You are a person who deeply matters to your home location.
A tourist can just float away on the breeze. A vital community member is anchored to the seabed.
Exactly. The more you matter to the people in your home country, the more likely you are to get the visa to leave them temporarily.
That is actually a really empowering way to look at what is otherwise a very depressing process. It's not about begging the U.S. government to let you enter. It's about confidently bragging about how important you are back home.
I am too important to disappear. That is the
That's
exact
wonderful.
vibe you want to project through that glass. I cannot vanish into America because way too many people here need me to wake up and do my job tomorrow.
I am too important to disappear. I'm literally going to write that down. That is the mantra for 2026.
It really is the best way to summarize the winning strategy.
Looking at all of this together, Ashkin's employees depending on her, Hans' potential university seminar, Stephen's exhaustive travel history, it strikes me how much of this entire process is just about storytelling.
It is entirely about storytelling. And this is a big but, it is storytelling backed by irrefutable evidence. Officer Miller is your audience, but he's a highly hostile audience. He's actively looking for plot holes in your story. He's looking for inconsistencies in your character motivations.
He's the grumpy movie critic who wants to pan your film.
Yes, exactly. Your job is to make the plot so tight, the character motivations so incredibly clear, like, I must return to pay Leo, that the critic has no choice but to believe the ending of the movie, that you will get on the plane and go home.
And the physical props matter just as much as the script. The stamped lease agreement, the embossed wedding invitation, the signed seminar contract.
Physical proof is everything. Words are just wind. In the 2026 visa landscape, paper or digital proof is gravity. You can't just claim you're important. You have to physically show them the weight of your importance.
Wow. We've talked a lot today about the interview itself, that high-pressure, face-to-face moment at the window. But our source material actually teases something else at the very end, something that happens long before you ever step foot inside the embassy.
The digital curtain.
The DS-160 form.
The massive online form that essentially determines your fate before you even put on your interview suit.
The source material hints at this terrifying idea. A single, seemingly innocent social media post from Zahir Hen's brother, or a minor typo by Hen herself on that form can change everything in an instant.
It really highlights the extreme fragility of the whole process. You can have the best gravity in the world, you can have Ashgan's thriving business and all her employees, but if you make a mistake on the digital front, it can undermine all of that physical evidence.
Right, like if Zahir posts something on Facebook like, can't wait for my sister Hen to move to Florida eventually.
Then Officer Miller's system scrapes that data, he sees it on his screen before Hen even walks in the door, and the game is totally over. Intending immigrant status is confirmed by her own family.
It's the digital anchors that can sink you just as fast as the physical ones save you.
Or the digital breadcrumbs that lead the algorithm to the wrong conclusion.
That is a whole other layer of anxiety. Honestly, we might have to save the deep dive on the DS-160 form for another day, because that sounds like a digital minefield that deserves its own hour of analysis.
It absolutely does. The DS-160 is a beast. But it reinforces the main theme of what we've talked about today. Everything is connected. Your offline life, your online life, your travel history, it all forms one composite picture of who you are.
And the ultimate goal is to make that composite picture look exactly like someone who is firmly, happily, and unmovably stuck in their home country.
Stuck is the new free.
Stuck is the new free. Paradoxically, having these heavy, burdensome anchors is the only thing that gives you the privilege of freedom of movement.
It's the grand irony of globalization. To be a true global citizen, you have to definitively prove you are a local patriot. You have to prove you belong somewhere else.
That is a profound thought to end on. In a world obsessed with digital nomadism and endless global travel, physical anchors have paradoxically become the most valuable currency for freedom. We spend so much of our time trying to cut ties, but the ties are the only things that let us fly.
It's very true. We chase freedom, but it's our bonds that actually let us travel.
So, to everyone listening, take a hard look at your life before you fill out that form. Don't look at your bank account. Look at your bonds. Who depends on you? What would collapse if you weren't there? Find your gravity, because that gravity is your ticket to fly.
Very well said.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. Check your anchors, update your evidence, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Safe travels, everyone.